Hi, I'm John P, and today I'm going to show you some very cool watches under $1,000. Roll it. And we're back. You're chatting with John P. Today we are going to talk about the best sports watches under $1,000 US. But first, I'd like to thank you for liking and subscribing. Smash that subscribe button. I do appreciate it, and you've been a big help so far. So do it, and I will appreciate it. And also check out delraywatch.com. Full disclosure, some of the watches I'm about to talk to you about today are on delraywatch.com, so if you're in the market for any of these or you'd like to take my suggestion, check it out, delraywatch.com, full disclosure. So let's run into the wristwatch check. Today I've got my gold 1601 gold Datejust on the wrist. Loving this thing. It's got the alpha hands. If you follow the channel, you know what it is. And if you don't, I'll have a picture here for you to see it. I am absolutely in love with this. If you saw my video talking to you about not to buy a Datejust, this is kind of an exception in my opinion. If you can get yourself a precious metal Datejust, if you can kind of stretch the budget a little bit, you'll thank yourself, because in terms of a vintage gold dress watch, I mean, there's something just so classy and understated about a gold Datejust. But nonetheless, check it out. There's a picture here, and maybe it's for you, maybe it's not. But anyways, today I have a very interesting topic. Now, typically, I don't collect watches under $1,000. For whatever reason, it's just that I have a very particular taste, and while all of the watches I'm about to talk to you about today are all pretty good watches and definitely excellent entry-level watches into Swiss watchmaking, I think there's one or two that are not Swiss. They're really great starter pieces. So whether you are looking for a casual piece, if you have a larger collection and just need something to kind of beat around and tinker with, or perhaps you're a younger gentleman, or the budget you're working with just allows for these types of watches. So $1,000 and under is the mark for today's sports watch selection. And the other thing to keep in mind is these are not based off of retail prices. So I own delraywatch.com, and at delraywatch.com we sell pre-owned watches. And the thing is, I believe that by buying pre-owned, you just get the best value, right? You get a warranty if you buy from the right dealer, and you're also letting someone else take, that hit on the price for you. It's like driving a car off the showroom floor and taking a huge hit as soon as you hit the pavement. That's what it's like buying a new watch. So unless it's a very small selection of Rolex watches. So I really do believe in the pre-owned being a great value, and all of these watches are pre-owned. And full disclosure, again, you may have to hunt for one or two of them on the list, because newsflash, I'm not the only one that thinks that these watches are a great value. Many of you also do as well, so they do get snatched up pretty quickly. And also, I have my laptop down here just so I can pull them up, because the list is a little bit longer than I'd like it to be, but I really want to bring you some very cool watches. So let's run in the list of the best sports watches under $1,000 pre-owned. Let's get into it. So the first watch that I have here is pretty much any pre-owned Oris Aquos model, and likely you're going to get into the $1,000 price point if it's not with box and papers, which for an Oris watch, that's really okay. It's not likely to ever be a collectible. They're very, moderately to entry-level price watches. So the Oris Aquos is just an excellent dive watch. I've handled a lot of them in my collecting days, and it was one of my first dive watches that I've ever owned. They've been making them for a while, and they come in all different sorts of variations and like sizes. And the thing is, most of them, they do have ETA movements, and along with most of the watches on the list today, they have base quality movements, not very finely decorated, but under $1,000, that's what you get. And it's still a workhorse movement, right? Like it's going to treat you very well, and it's going to be accurate. But this particular Oris watch, now I'm just looking at it here, and this particular one is just beautiful. I think, and I know that the quality on these is really great. Oris makes just a fabulous watch. When Oris was coming out with this Aquos, I think maybe about 10 years ago when they released their first model, everyone was shocked that they were able to put on the market a watch of such great quality at such an attractive price point. At under $1,000, I think the target for a watch like this is between $800 to $1,000, just depending on the condition. It's just crazy. You can get them on bracelets, you can get them in a whole list of different colors, and you'll have to take my word on this. They're usually a larger case, and they're just a beautiful watch. And it's Swiss, of course, so it goes a long way. In terms of being a dive watch under $1,000, I don't see you buying a higher quality dive watch under $1,000 than an Oris Aquos, and I know many people that would agree. So that kicks off the list. Let's run into the next one, and it's also another dive watch, right? Dive watches are one of the most popular subcategories in the sports watch category. What we have is pretty much a Tag Heuer Aqua Racer. Now, the one that I have pictured here is, your standard black on black, newer Tag Heuer Aqua Racer, and they have many different variants, just like Oris does with, the Aquos line. The Aqua Racer has been out for a while as well, and they have quartz variants, and they have automatic variants, obviously, but they're great workhorses. It's Tag Heuer, so it is a reputable brand. You are getting workhorse movement. The quality is about as good as it gets at that $1,000 price point. I would say the quality for maybe an Aqua Racer that's 5 years old, 6 years old, an automatic variant, you're going to get a little less quality than the Oris, but in exchange, you get a watch that's a little more brand reputable. What I mean by that is someone that's not in the watch world is going to respect this watch just so long as they are not too snobby about it. Tag Heuer also makes, some very affordable tourbillons, and so to kind of mix a watch like this that's more affordable coming from a brand that is known for being a solid entry point into the Swiss watchmaking world, I think that it delivers a great value, and certainly Tag Heuer is not going anywhere. So if you're looking for that $1,000 price point or under pre-owned, a cool sports watch, it looks kind of like a sub, right? It's a dive watch, black on black. This is a great choice in my opinion. Rolling into a watch that many of you are probably not familiar with, it's the Baume Engineer. Now, this one pictured here is the Baume Engineer 3, and the thing about Baume watches is that Baume puts tritium gas tubes on their watches, and it's a proprietary, system that they supposedly developed, and it allows the lume to just be absolutely gorgeous. I mean, these dials are lit. And the thing about these dials, particularly the lume tubes on these dials, is that they're pretty much always glowing. So whether, it's just slightly dark or it's extremely dark, in low light situations, these things are just gorgeous. And I think the price mark on these, considering a much newer one, there's a couple of engineers, but this specific engineer, you're going to have to shoot closer to that $1,000 price point. But Baume makes a solid watch. The brand is not as reputable as a Tag Heuer for someone outside of the watch world, but inside the watch world, at that price point, the case construction is basically up there with the Oris Aquos. You can get it on rubber, you can get it on a stainless steel bracelet. They just make a nice, cool watch, and they are rugged. These watches can really take a beating. Baume makes other watches as well, of course, and they have some of the other watches in titanium, and they just get beat up. And these things at the price point, I really recommend this for a watch that you just want to put through the ringer. And considering the lume is probably the selling point for me on this watch. I don't know any other brands in that price point that are doing anything like that. There's very few brands that use those gas tubes. So check this one out for sure. The next one. Now, this is a brand that makes a little bit higher end watches for the price point, and some of the retail prices on their watches even go into the few $1,000s. This one is the Longines Grand Vitesse Chronograph. Now, this chronograph, typically pre-owned, does sell for a little higher, but you can see them, and we've had them at Delray Watch, even cheaper before. So you're also shooting at that $1,000 price point. This is one of them that I mentioned you will have to dig around on the internet for. You might have to go to a forum, you might have to go to Chrono24, you might have to trade someone something, but nonetheless you can find this at or under, just under $1,000. Now what you have here is also a base movement. You're going to have, you know, a 7750, you know, workhorse chronograph movement, or a variation thereof, depending on which version of the Grand Vitesse Longines chronograph you get. But what you get is you get a chronograph that's Swiss made from Longines, who's been making watches since the early 1900s and has so many models, and it's really more respected in kind of the higher end watch community. I am not saying this is a high end watch. What I'm saying is those that enjoy kind of the mid tier to the higher tier you know, watches respect the brand Longines a little more, just because they've been in the game so long and so consistent. What you have is Oris, and they went out of business. They went back in business over and over, but Longines has been just a dominating player in the watch industry for such a long time. While they may not have been as prevalent as they are today, or even in earlier points in time, they certainly do have notoriety behind the brand, much like Tag Heuer does. So when you have a chronograph like this beauty, I mean, if you're looking for a chronograph sports watch, $1,000 or under, you just can't go wrong. You're basically buying the Tag Heuer name and that, you know, that stock base chronograph movement, which is going to serve you well. It's going to serve its purpose, and you do get a chronograph Swiss made under $1,000 pre-owned. So the next watch we have here, gentlemen, is the Tissot Sea Star. Now this watch here I think is just awesome, right? You get that look of a basically a blue sub. So Rolex has a Submariner that's white gold and it's blue on blue, and what you have here is you have basically the Smurf, as they call it. You have the Smurf at like $600 for an automatic Swiss dive watch. Now $600 I think is a gray market seller price. I just saw this. It was like $580 and it's new. I don't think it came with papers, but for $600, guys, I mean, $600 gets you a Swiss dive watch that's never been worn. I think that is absolutely crazy. And being that it's a blue watch, for whatever reason, blue watches have been fetching premiums over the last year or two. So to get, you know, basically a Tissot Swiss dive watch, Tissot has also been a brand that's been out for, you know, a very, very long time, since the earliest days of watchmaking. To consider this and to get something like that for half of $1,000 unworn, in my mind, that is absolutely crazy. Sure, the quality is not going to be as high as Oris, just creating a scale for ourselves in terms of quality from this list solely. You know, you have the Oris, which in my opinion, I think is probably the highest quality manufactured case and material of the metals and, you know, the surrounding pieces and parts. But this is not going to be the highest quality, but if you're looking at even that half price point range, that $500-600, or perhaps a Christmas gift for someone, I mean, you can't go wrong. Or maybe you just want a watch to beat up at the beach on the weekends, or maybe it's your first Swiss watch. This personally, I think, is probably the best bang for the buck on the list. It's crazy in my opinion. Moving on to a German manufacturer, or somewhat German manufacturer, is you have a Mule Glashütte Terra Sport. This watch has a Sellita movement, so, you know, much unlike the other watches, it doesn't have a base Sellita movement. I mean, it doesn't have a base ETA movement, it has a base Sellita movement, so it's, you know, it's comparable form and functionality. But what you have here is you basically have yourself a German pilot's watch. Now, this is the only pilot watch on the list, and so if you like that kind of IWC look and you don't want to shell out the IWC price point, you can get yourself this watch, and it kind of looks like an IWC pilot, and it definitely looks a lot like a Glashütte Original pilot. So at this price point, I think you need to be at the $800 to $850 mark pre-owned, and they come in all different types, sizes, I believe, as well as colors. And this is the white one we have here, but they make it in black, so you can get that traditional look as well. As far as the quality, in terms of like entry-level German watches, I think it's as good as it gets. It's not quite up there with Oris that I mentioned, which I'm kind of using as like the best in the list in terms of quality, but it is definitely up there. So if you like the Pilot's shape and the Pilot watch look, I would go for this one, and you can't go wrong. And they're really strong. We had one a while ago through Del Rey, and this thing, it was solid. It was a solid case. It felt like you could throw this thing against a brick wall and jump on it, and I don't know if it would keep running, but at least the case would be there, right? So consider that one. And lastly, I think this is a very cool one. Baume and Mercier. Baume and Mercier, they make some higher end, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 chronographs, especially when you get into the precious metal. But what we have here is the Baume and Mercier Capelin chronograph. Now, this is one of the earlier Capelin chronographs. The newer Capelin chronographs have a more kind of vintage look and style to them. This is the Capelin chronograph from, I believe, 2003. But these things can also be had at $1,000 or under. You're also getting a 7750 or 7750 base movement, very stock, but yet, once again, a workhorse watch. And to get Baume & Mercier has made so many other watches over the course of time, mostly within the last 5 to 6 years, very entry level, but they also do make precious metals, so it's not a brand to shake a stick at, right? I mean, Baume & Mercier has been making watches for a very long time, much like some of the other guys on the list. So if you are also looking for that, kind of that brand recognition of being Swiss without being kind of too common, right? Like Tag Heuers have become very common. I mean, you can go into Macy's and buy a Tag Heuer. You can go into, you go in the mall and everyone's selling Tag Heuer and they're on all the closeouts. But Baume & Mercier, they're just do a little bit different, right? I mean, they have a little bit more of that kind of classic style to it. And when you look at this particular chronograph, just the black on blue it's absolutely gorgeous. We have a similar one at Del Rey, not quite this one, but there's just something about this, and I just had to throw it on the list, because if you duly want kind of like a classic but yet sporty and refined sports watch that's a chronograph at this price point, I don't see how you can go wrong with this one. So let's go back, and yep, that concludes the list, gentlemen. So basically, I just wanted to present these watches to you here and show you that if you're not necessarily tied down to buying a brand new watch, right? Like, you don't totally care about having the manufacturer warranty. I mean, let's face it, if someone has a pre-owned watch and it didn't work, they would have sent it in anyways. If it doesn't work when they get it within any short period of time that original owner owned it and they didn't get it worked on, what are the chances that it breaks in, a couple more days or a couple years? It is very low. Usually the problems happen sooner than later, especially when we're talking about base movements, which are in affordable watches. So I just wanted to show you that if you swing yourself into that pre-owned category and you're looking for a sports watch, you can get a steal of a deal on any of these watches I mentioned for you. So if any of these watches resonate with you, I would not hesitate at all to pick one up or pick two of them up. Or maybe you just want a watch that you can bang up on the weekends, or maybe it's your first Swiss watch purchase and you would like a sports watch. I would easily recommend any of these, and the movements are the selling point, right? They're all workhorse movements, so don't worry about that at all. Choose the one that you like, and I am sure you will enjoy it. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that subscription button. I do appreciate it. And follow me on Instagram, TheRealJohnP. I like to show off a bit about my life, and you can kind of see what it's like day to day for a watch dealer. It's kind of interesting, and I bet it's not what you would think, and it's certainly not as glamorous as you would think, even though we might be dealing with extremely high-end watches, FP Journe, Patek, AP. We try to keep it very low-key at Del Rey Watch, and you might find it very interesting, so follow me there. And, of course, check out delreywatch.com. Especially for the holiday season, we have some very cool things for you. I hope you enjoyed this list, and I hope I catch you in the next one. This has been Chatting with John P. Ciao.